guys, today I'm going to share a little bit about my weight loss story, and I am somebody who I'm down 40 pounds from when I kind of at my peak of pregnancy. 20 pounds comes off super quick, obviously there's a baby involved, but there's been 20 additional pounds from there, so a total of 40 from kind of that peak. And I have quite a bit of a backstory, which I'm not going to get totally into today, but basically what I want to talk to you all about is the mentality around it. The mentality that can help people actually make successful changes in their life to better their health and to better their energy levels and a lot of different things. And I'm going to talk about how the world right now has this message of fat acceptance. And it's shown, Tess Holliday on Glamour magazine, as if morbid obesity is something that is glamorous and something we should aspire to, or just even be okay with, if not aspire to. This is such a negative, destructive message, and is really hurtful to the people who are struggling with their weight. And I am going to talk about that in this video. I'm also going to address how a lot of videos that talk about fat acceptance in kind of the political right, they do tend to come off, I think, where they really belittle, people's struggles, and it's just kind of like, oh, just go to the gym. I get it. It is not so easy. That is such a lie that, people can just go to the gym and just, as long as you go to the gym and eat reasonably, like, you won't gain weight. Different people have different biological challenges that make it harder, and this is why it's so important to not just accept it and just normalize it, because that's taking away the leverage for change. If people are just encouraged to just say, you know what, no, everybody else is wrong, science is wrong, I'm going to be the way I am, and that's actually not very empowering. It's actually empowering to believe that you can make whatever change you want in your life. And a reason why I believe that a healthy weight is so important is because excess weight is really a symptom not just of, oh, you eat too much, but it's a symptom of physical symptoms, problems, mental, emotional, lifestyle, or even spiritual issues. So when I'm talking about physical health, I think a lot of times people think of the weight itself is what's unhealthy. But the reality is that a lot of times, if you have that physical excess weight, there's a lot going on. For instance, with your insulin. So there's a huge rise in type 2 diabetes. The problem isn't necessarily what size pants you have to fit in, but it's what is going on internally in your body. What is going on as far as sugar addiction goes? What is going on with your hormones? And females especially tend to have, obviously everybody has hormones, but 1 in 10 women are diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Me being one of those people. This gave me challenges for fertility. And I possibly would have been aware of PCOS had I, took a more holistic approach to my weight. And that was actually a sign, some of the physical signs of how I dealt with sugar and my hunger and this and that. I could have been maybe a little bit more aware of, PCOS kind of triggered that stuff, which then leads to weight loss. But then what a lot of people say is kind of like, oh, well, it was PCOS that made me gain weight, and therefore I can't change anything. And I'd encourage people to not take that approach, but rather take a more empowering approach of, okay, well, now I identify that it's more about the hormones. What can I do to help regulate those hormones? And so you may try to look into things like keto or intermittent fasting. I do 16/8 intermittent fasting. I'm not going to go all the way to keto. That is very intense, and I do kind of question the idea of just basically giving up all carbs. But but the reason I do that is because it relates so much to my insulin, and there's insulin resistance that can start building up, and it gets worse and worse and worse. So somebody you may want to, people may want to look up is Dr. Berg, who, he's not always my favorite. He makes me sometimes feel like I have to eat like totally perfectly to be reasonably healthy, and I don't believe that's actually true. But nevertheless, he has a quote that I love about, You need to get healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to get healthy. And this is why we need to not just say, oh, it's fine, it's just a social construct that it's not, that, morbid obesity is a problem. No, there's actual science behind it, and we shouldn't deny that. And it's a symptom. When our bodies are doing certain things, it's a symptom. And yes, back in the day, having more weight on you may have been seen as a good thing, because the greater risk to people's health was starvation, not diabetes or heart disease, because they didn't have the kind of abundant food that we have today. So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. And so we want to listen to our bodies and dig a little deeper to the root of what's going on. And so I just encourage people to do that. And that's something that I did, and it has been a journey, and I've been losing weight like really pretty slow. I mean, it's a little bit less than a pound a week, but nevertheless, it's helping me to, I believe, internally change. And sorry if this is TMI, but like, I naturally got my period for the first time in years. So I mean, was like pregnant, then breastfeeding, then trying to get pregnant again, then breastfeeding. But last time around, I didn't get my period. And when I got off birth control to start trying to have children, I just never got my period. But I believe that, because of some of the eating changes I've done, that was inspired probably more so by vanity, it's actually helping my body get into a better position where, hopefully I don't have to take Clomid again to have a third child. I will say, with this video, I'm probably talking to people who have a little bit more of an issue with food, where you know that you have this strained relationship with food and with the scale, and you can gain weight really easily and just like really fast. Like, I do think that there are some people who, perhaps, on average, they gain a half a pound a year, so then after 20, 30 years, they kind of, have a little bit of extra weight. Do they need to be super worried? Maybe not, if they don't have any particular health problems. However, I know that there are people out there like me who could gain weight super fast and really have this relationship with food where you can really depend on it much more than you should. Like, we should eat to live, not live to eat, right? And especially if you take it from a Christian perspective, we're supposed to treat our bodies like a temple, and we want to, take care of ourselves so we can take care of this body that God gave us to do good works in this world. And if we don't take care of our body, well, we can't go as far as we maybe could. We can honor God in that way and also avoid idolatry, which for some people, it really is a problem with food. And I kind of knew I had that, but I thought it was basically all related to sugar and dessert. But once I started intermittent fasting, I realized how very dependent I was on food to get me going in the day, to just kind of like, if I felt a little tired, like give me, more energy. And it was just so ultra dependent. And right now, I think things are starting to shift a little bit, but it's still very popular advice to say, oh, eat 6 times a day. And so that's eating every couple hours. We don't need to eat every couple hours. That is such a lie, and so look up Fledge Fitness, or Thomas, whatever. I'll put some of these links in my description, but there's a lot of different people who get into the science of intermittent fasting and why it is so beneficial, and also why keto is so beneficial. You don't have to go quite that far, but those kind of go together. But it has to do with teaching your body basically to actually use the fat, the ketones, for your energy instead of just using glucose from sugar, from what you eat. So if your body actually becomes more fat adapted, it actually learns to use your fat, which is the way we're designed to be able to operate. And we should be able to switch back and forth between those means of getting energy. Like, our bodies store fat so that we have energy for the future. But if your body is never using that fat, that stored fat, as energy, it kind of loses its ability to do that very effectively. So there's is a really fascinating topic. But I encourage you all to like kind of look into that and to consider, are you hyper dependent on food? Obviously, we have to eat at some point, but I mean, like for me, for instance, it is hard to go 16 hours without eating, and this includes sleep. So it's basically skip breakfast. I am nursing, so I don't push it very much. But that another thing that's kind of out there is people do act very reluctant about like women can't handle not having one meal. I'm sorry. I think that's just a lie. I just think that is so not true, and a lot of studies that kind of give out some of that information were much more dramatic studies where it was not, okay, you went a couple more hours before you ate something. And we don't need to be constantly snacking. We can survive, and we should survive. And the tighter you grasp onto anything, the more likely it is that you need to learn to try to release it. But one of the things that helps motivate these changes is just the desire to not be fat. And that's usually where it starts. And so I think it's very dangerous to try to remove people's desire to lose weight, because then they never dig deeper within that desire to lose weight to some of the things that really matter in life, much more than their clothes size. And so that's just, it just basically takes away the leverage that people need. They need that motivation to change, to get them started in that journey, and then they can keep digging in and figuring out their deeper reasons why. And I've already noticed, even besides fat acceptance, like a lot of times people will look at somebody and say, "Oh, well, you don't look like you're overweight. Like, you're fine. What are you doing? Why are you trying to make lifestyle changes?" Well, that's actually not helpful, and this is something that I've had all my life, because I've never really allowed myself to get definitely way overweight. However, and I'm 5'8", so I'm pretty reasonably distributed, so you can't see it necessarily as much as on somebody who's 5 feet or something. But people really discourage going that direction, and even accuse people of like anorexia if with the littlest sign of not eating perhaps as much as somebody else eats. And so I think this is a really damaging perspective. And I've heard about in France, for instance, I was watching some video about why French people are thinner, and this girl who she like lives there, I think, and has a boyfriend who's French, but she's American, and she was saying like people would just kind of say, "Oh, I'm being extra mindful." Like they wouldn't say they're on a diet. They just continually had this like checks and balance, and they did give each other social pressure, where if somebody was eating kind of a lot, they'd be like, "Oh, that's kind of a lot," or, "Oh, that has a lot of sugar. You probably don't want to have 2 of those." And her as an American was kind of like, "What the heck? Rude, get out of my business." But you know what? That kind of social encouragement to just stay in a healthy place and to just have a heightened awareness of, just total freedom, gorge yourself all the time. That's not a helpful habit. And it's a habit, and it's hard as heck to break. So we need to try to encourage each other to just keep things, kind of under control. Because then the further people get as far as like gaining weight, the harder it is. Because mentally it's harder, because there's all these habits, and they're so used to these things, and perhaps they've tried to lose weight and then were unsuccessful, and so all this stuff happens. And then they just have that much more weight to lose, so it can be that much more discouraging. It's harder to exercise because of the extra weight. Like, it compounds on itself. And this is why I think it's so important to not act as if morbid obesity is fine. And I even am against, and maybe some people will disagree with me, but I'm even against trying to, encourage like, oh, size 14 models, and act as if this is just the, kind of the standard. Well, we're all size 14 now, so let's just do that. But the thing is, it's so much easier and better. Like, models are sort of the aspiration, right? And so if you think you're already there, you're not going to be motivated to investigate this stuff when you are size 14 to try to get down to a size 6. And I'm just saying these sizes like a little bit arbitrarily, but that kind of idea is I don't think that we should just say, because we're bigger now, like the average is always the best. That's not true. People are dying of heart disease, and and people have diabetes, or losing legs, or losing their eyesight. Like, this is a problem. This is a major problem. And so it all starts after you gain 10 pounds. You gain the freshman 15 or whatever. And we need to try to de-emotionalize it, to have it look at it just a little bit more scientifically. Like, okay, the scale says this, of course it fluctuates or whatever, but time for me to be a little more mindful, and then just make those adjustments early on. But if you just accept it, like, that's going to make it much harder to do that. Okay, so anyway, that's pretty much it about just the mentality of why fat acceptance is not helpful for society. It's not helpful for people who want to lose weight, or maybe should want to lose weight, and as a reiteration, like, I'm not saying this because I have a problem, looking at people who are overweight. Thing is that I know that I'm somebody who absolutely could have turned morbidly obese. I truly believe that. Before I got pregnant, I tend to gain like pre-pregnancy weight. I gained like 15 pounds just within a couple months or something, because I don't know. That's like a whole nother story about things that people talk to women about, as far as when they're pregnant and it's fine, just eat whatever, and I was like, not true. But anyway, like, I can gain weight very quickly, and that's something I have to remind myself of when I don't feel like doing my intermittent fasting. I don't feel like skipping breakfast. I wake up really hungry. I'm still not that fat adapted after months of this, but like, that could have happened to me, and I'm really grateful that my parents kind of taught me, I think, a very healthy balance of, like, it's just something you keep in check, right? Like, you go to the dentist, just kind of check on your teeth, make sure you don't have cavities. If you're kind of consistently having a lot of cavities, maybe you need to, like, step up the dental hygiene. It doesn't mean you're not worth anything. Like, you're wonderful in God's eyes. Like, you're made in the image of God. If you've accepted Jesus, your sins are forgiven. Like, this isn't about salvation. But as far as being effective in your living, you're going to have more energy, you're going to feel better if you take care of your body and yourself. And if you have this symptom of excess weight, that indicates that something is off. There could be emotional challenges that you need to work through and figure out healthy alternatives to deal with those emotions. But if you just say, oh, well, it's fine that I just, eat cupcakes to deal with my loneliness, then you're never going to like, make the actual lifestyle changes required. Or maybe, there could be people who are working way too much and are expecting way too much of themselves, and so they're sort of stress eating, or they're just, just so many different things, and we need to not ignore the symptoms. We want to dig to the root of it and really treat ourselves like we love ourselves, right? And that's really where I'm coming from, and encouraging people to do that, and to recognize this is not about worth, but it's about a symptom that something is off. This channel is really about breaking down some of these feminist ideas and messages. This particular video, about fat acceptance, but I talk about other stuff. If that's the kind of thing you want to do or learn about, then hit that subscribe button. Definitely like this video and share it with your friends so these messages can get out there to more people. And I will talk to you all later.